The Nintendo Switch 2 is coming fast on the horizon, but it seems that there's still a little juice left in the Switch 1 yet. On March 27th, Nintendo held what might be the last ever Switch 1 Nintendo Direct, unveiling some new games that we have to look forward to, some cool remasters with new gameplay as well as HD graphics, and a couple of interesting surprises too. So while we all warm up for the Switch 2 release, put your feet up and enjoy this summary of everything we heard about in the March Nintendo Direct. As always, your likes and subs are appreciated. This channel's been growing fast, so thank you to everyone out there who is liking, subbing, and sharing the videos. Tell me what your Switch 2 hopes are in the comments, and I'll tell you about this channel's Patreon at the end. And with that, let's go. First up, we got a look at the remasters of Dragon Quest 1 and 2, two classic pixel art RPGs modernized for the Switch. But as well as graphics that fit the screen and look nice and sharp, we also got the addition of some new quests, and I love it when remasters contain something new. It's a reason for fans to get excited and replay the games they love again, and it just brings some welcome life to old games, you know what I mean? I also really like the new key art. I like it when pixel games have these kind of illustrations that expand our imagination of what the game world is like. I remember being blown away by the box art of Secret of Mana as a kid, and this kind of had a similar effect. Anyway, no release date yet for the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 remasters, but they will be coming out later this year, so stay tuned for that. The next game on show was No Sleep for Kaname Date, a new game in the Somnium Files universe. It's a first-person puzzle game that looks like it has some escape room elements that's set in a space station where some kind of emergency is taking place. You're looking at all kinds of screens and dials and buttons, and you'll be getting alerts with things like the power going down or the station running out of oxygen, and your job is to keep the systems running, get the station working again, and stay alive. So it's a bit more high stakes than your average IRL escape room where the worst outcome is losing and then having to buy the first round or something. We also saw some anime style cutscenes, so we can expect a sci-fi story here too. No doubt there's a mystery that we'll be getting to the bottom of about why this station is running out of control. Intriguing looking game. That's No Sleep for Kaname Date, coming out on July 25th. Beloved publisher Atlus is having a bit of a hot streak lately. They had a strong Game of the Year contender last year in Metaphor ReFantazio, which made my own Games of the Year list. Link on the screen now if you missed that video, by the way. They've also been dishing out some remasters lately like Persona 3 Reload, and now Radu Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army. Radu is a lesser-known sister to the Persona series about a character named Radu who solves crimes with the help of demonic summons, so there's some detective gameplay mixed in here with the action RPG fare. Metaphor was the first Atlus game that's really gotten its hooks into me, but it's gotten me on board with their formula now, so count me as interested in this one. That's Radu Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army, coming to Switch and everything else on June 19th. The next game on show was really speaking my language. It was Shadow Labyrinth, a gorgeous looking 2D action game set in a dark sci-fi world. The look of this game really stood out to me. It's both murky and somehow fresh at the same time, with Ghost Song and Nine Souls vibes. I think both of those games are pretty underrated, by the way, so check them out if you haven't already. But Shadow Labyrinth is an action platformer that looks like it might have some Metroidvania elements as well. You have a robot pal called Puck who floats around behind you, a little bit like B12 from Stray, but with a Pac-Man-ish design. They seem to have a story of their own that will be played out as we wander through this world, and they can also deploy abilities for you in both combat and traversal. And another twist in this one is that you can also kind of straight up consume your defeated enemies to power up, like some kind of crazy venom. Count me in for this one. That's Shadow Labyrinth, releasing on July 18th. We also got a look at Patapon 1 and 2 Replay. This is a pair of classic rhythm games where you control a bunch of little creatures who battle based on your inputs. You start off with basic units, but you build them up over time. It looked like there were some big tanks and ranged attacks, so you'll be maybe deploying some strategy and tactics playing these games as well. It looks like there are some other interesting wrinkles as well, like new power-ups, new button combos, and it's all set to a jolly J-pop soundtrack. So you're playing a rhythm game, but you're looking at a battle happening on screen. And I really hope that the tactical element is front and center, because I think it could really bring this to life. That's quite an interesting combo, and it's all set to a jolly J-pop soundtrack. That's Patapon 1 and 2 Replay, coming out on July 11th. And we also got a look at Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar, another farming game in the storied series. You grow stuff, you take care of animals, and you have a whole little repetitive digital life. I really wish that I enjoyed these kind of games, and I can sense the soothing energy coming from them, but honestly, I go a little bit crazy doing the same thing over and over in games. But for those of you who do enjoy farming games, and I know that many of you are out there, this might be one for you. That's Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar, and it's out on August 27th. This next trailer surprised me a little. We got a whole 3 minutes on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This is the long-awaited, scrapped and rebooted Prime sequel. I was expecting this to be a Switch 2 launch title, but Nintendo are not keeping their powder dry on this one. I guess with 130 million Switch units out there, of course it was going to be cross-gen. I do wonder if this is going to be the start of a slightly worrying trend. It could be the start of a cross-gen era, where the power of the Switch 2 is slightly shackled by games having to run on Switch like an Xbox Series S kind of situation. But the game looks amazing. Of course, Samus is summoned to a plant called Vuros, a jungle with a colossal mana tree at its center. She encounters a strange being who bestows psychic abilities on her, like the ways of seeing and moving objects in the world with telekinesis. We also saw a bit of okay-looking Prime gunplay, but the most exciting thing to me is that classic Prime scanning gameplay where you spot things in the environment and you scan them, like a xenobotanist exploring a strange new land. You can, of course, scan plants and creatures. And I like that you don't get a huge codex dump every time you scan something. You just see a tweet-sized byte of text on the screen and that's all you need. But it's also incorporated into the exploration here, as Samus scans stone statues that give clues about this mysterious world. Really fun to see this one. No release date as yet, but it's coming later in 2025 confirmed. That's Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Of course, it wouldn't be a Nintendo Direct without a shadow drop or two, and we got kind of a wild one here, nothing I was expecting. It's Disney Villains Cursed Cafe, a kind of coffee talk-like where you're making drinks for Disney villains. Visitors to the cafe include classic characters like Ursula, Cruella de Vil, Captain Hook, and more that have been released but that I won't spoil here in case you're looking forward to the surprise. In this game, you play as a potionista, that's like a barista for potions, and you serve up your concoctions to off-duty Disney characters who are, out shopping or golfing or doing their thing. The potions that you serve and mix affect the story in interesting ways, and we're promised branching pathways in the story, different endings for different characters. It sounds like there might be a lot of replayability here if you want to see all of the outcomes, and who knows, maybe you can save a few Dalmatians along the way. Best of all, you can try it right now. That's Disney Villains Cursed Cafe, out now. We got another one for cozy fans in Witchbrook, a spellbinding social RPG, as they call it. It's from the Stardew Valley publisher Chucklefish, which might give you some clues about the vibe. It's a pixel art witch game with an interesting looking Hogwarts-adjacent school to explore. You also get to check out the sprawling town of Mossport and do witchy things like performing rituals, flying around on your broom, and learning new spells with the potential for some magic misfires if you get it wrong. It also has some social sim elements with 4-person multiplayer on offer and changing seasons with different weather conditions. This looks like the kind of game that could scoop up a pretty sizable audience to me. I can imagine the fan art already, especially because there are lots of cute touches here, like picnics with friends, pets to pick up and get to know, and lots of cute outfits and that kind of thing. So the cozy crowd will be all over this one. That's Witchbrook, coming towards Christmas this year. I also quite like the look of The Eternal Life of Goldman. It's a fresh-looking platformer inspired by classic myths, legends, fables and fairy tales. You play as a particularly sprightly old man, and despite the fact that he carries a cane, he jumps like Mario and runs like Sonic. So I'll have some of whatever he's having, please. There are also some very impressive-looking boss battles here, and lovely environments like a moving train and a log floating down some river rapids. The devs took pains to stress that every detail of this game is handcrafted, and you can really see that in the art. It looks action-packed and really fun. That's The Eternal Life of Goldman, coming out in the holidays in 2025. Retro fans will be happy to see Gradius Origins, a collection of classic 2D pixel art shoot-'em-ups. One thing that I'm happy about after this trailer is that it finally clears up the pronunciation of these games' names. A lot of people out there seem to say Gradius, which drives me absolutely crazy for no reason at all. It's the same as people saying 1000x resist instead of 1000 times resist. Stop that, guys. But my pronunciation pedantry aside, that's the rant over. Gradius Origins comes with a helpful rewind feature, which I think is great news for people that like shoot-'em-ups, because these games are balls hard, man. Best of all, the announcement came with Salamander 3, a brand new Gradius game, and I think that will delight fans for sure. That is Gradius Origins, out on August 7th. We've got 4 more show highlights to go, and then I'll run through all of the extra announcements just to keep you filled in. We also got another look at Rift of the Necrodancer, the forthcoming fantasy rhythm game. It has fun-looking mini-games, a nice fresh look, it has leaderboards so you can compete against friends, and we also got a look at the Celeste Music Pack DLC. I absolutely love the idea of playing a rhythm game with tracks from different games woven into it, and I really do wonder what other games they'll be partnering with. If you fancy finding out, that's Rift of the Necrodancer. Best of all, it's out later today, so you can try it right now. A particularly cute addition here was Tamagotchi Plaza. It's a game about everyone's favourite fantasy in a video game. That's working in a shop, of course. What wild dreams we're able to play out in video games, huh? This looks cute and chill. There's teeth-brushing mini-games, arrangement stuff where you're setting up the displays. You can put together outfits for your customers. There are lots of different shops to move between. That's Tamagotchi Plaza, out on June 27th. One of the big hitters was Pokemon Z-A Legends. It's the follow-up to Pokemon Legends Arceus. It's a new take on the Pokemon formula that I really enjoyed, and Z-A is in a 3D rendering of Lumio City from Pokemon X and Y. You explore the streets and rooftops of the city, then you enter wild zones like parks at night where you can battle and catch Pokemon. And there's also a mode called Z-A Royale at night, when you can stealth attack other trainers and battle them, working your way up the ranks from Z to A. So that explains the title of this one. That's Pokemon Legends Z-A, coming out in late 2025. Kind of saved the best for last here because the last of my highlights was a really big curveball. It was one of the best reveals of the day, and it started off very low-key with a little character on screen saying the game that you're about to see doesn't have a big epic story, but it does have lots of fun little mini-games. We then saw some basic rhythm gameplay, like it was explaining what a rhythm game is. We saw a little train of dudes walking along, or birds or frogs or whatever, and you just hit the buttons on rhythm to progress. It turns out that the game is in fact a new Rhythm Heaven game, no less, called Rhythm Heaven Groove. It has all new music by Suki. It's very exciting. It's still a long way off, sadly, with a 2026 release date, but if, like me, you were bummed that it's so far out, I really recommend trying out the game Melatonin. I'm going to flash my review of this one up on screen now, so check it out if you're a Rhythm Heaven fan. I remember that Melatonin came out around Christmas, and it really went under the radar. I think if it had come out at a different time, it might have been on a lot of people's Games of the Year list, so check it out for sure. And as well as my highlights, there are also lots of other stuff in here which I'll rattle through now. We saw High on Life, which is being ported to Switch on May 6th. That's a really funny Rick and Morty style first-person shooter. We got another look at the very propulsive-looking Star Overdrive, which is coming to Switch on April 11th. That one's coming really soon now. We got a glimpse of The Wandering Village, that strategy game where you're on the back of a giant creature. That's coming on September 14th. We saw an interesting-looking, pretty cute open-world adventure called Lose Lagoon, where you get a biplane and you get to explore an archipelago. That's coming out this summer. We saw King of Meat, a 4-person co-op combat game that's coming out in late 2025. We got a release date for Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, which is coming out on May 21st. That's an open world adventure with a cozy feel to it. And there's a new golf game coming out in the shape of Everybody's Golf Hot Shots. It's coming later this year. There was another shadow drop for Saga Frontier Remaster 2. Those games really do just keep on coming, huh? There was also an announcement that Monument Valley 1 and 2 collection is coming on April the 15th, and the third Monument Valley game, which I'm quite looking forward to actually, is coming this summer. Big news for Marvel fans was Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which is coming out in the holidays of 2025. That's a retro 4-person pixel art beat-em-up with all of your favourite X-Men and so forth. And it ended with a really weird-looking Mii game called Tamagotchi Life Living the Dream. This game had some really creepy voices in it. I'm not quite sure what was going on, and it ended on a bit of a twist with a giant Mii towering over another one. I think I'm missing some of the lore on Tamagotchi Life. If you know what this game is all about, then please let me know in the comments. And the show was rounded out with a couple of non-game announcements. There was a weird unveil of this virtual game card system where you can have a digital game card for your digital library and you could lend it to someone else, but only on your local Wi-Fi network and only for 2 weeks. Seems like a really weird, kind of clunky, Nintendo-ish, difficult to use feature. This one really isn't relevant to me as a solo Switch player, but for those of you with families out there, do you think this will be useful? Do you think you'll be able to port your games between different kids and yourself? Maybe even in this form, it's a better option than buying, 4 copies of Mario Wonder or whatever. And finally, Shigeru Miyamoto showed his face for the launch of Nintendo Today, another new app for Nintendo. This one is a calendar, basically, that gives you new Nintendo stuff to look at every single day. Kind of odd, but hey, Nintendo have really discovered apps lately. They have the music app, and they're designing this whole little Nintendo-verse, where you wake up to your Nintendo alarm clock, you check your Nintendo character, you play some Nintendo games, and then, I don't know, realize you're late for work yet again, and then listen to Nintendo music on your commute. I'll be curious to see if this app gets any pickup, and I don't know, I'll be checking it out, why not, right? So there we have it. That is possibly the last ever Nintendo Direct for the Switch 1, and it had me feeling a little bit nostalgic. We have the Switch 2 reveal coming next week, and I'm sure that the Nintendo Direct formula will continue, but the Nintendo Switch has been such a good console. It helped us all get through the pandemic, and we've played so many good games on this handheld. We've played Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. With all of this nostalgia in mind, I am planning right now a video about the best ever Nintendo Switch indie games, looking back across the history of the Nintendo Switch. I think it's going to be a really good time. I'm putting my list together right now, so subscribe to this channel if you would like to see that. It's coming out next week, and I'm still putting the list together, so if you've got some Nintendo indie classics that you'd like to see mentioned, let me know what they are and why you love them in the comments, and I might well read out your comment on the next video. I also want to mention that there is a Gaming in the Wild audio podcast that comes out every week. If you search Gaming in the Wild on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, you can find it. There is also a podcast tab on my channel page, so you can listen to it on YouTube if that's your kind of thing. If you've watched right to the end, you can also support this channel on Patreon. For $1 a month, you can get bonus blogs, podcasts, and invite to our amazing Discord community, which is just the nicest place on the internet to hang out and talk about games. We have a dedicated Nintendo channel there where people are guessing about Switch 2, talking about the launch titles they'd like to see, and it's away from all of that noise on social media with all of the gamer haters mouthing off all the time, so it's really cozy. Come and join us. It starts from just $1 a month, and there's a link on the screen now if you'd like to join. Every patron also helps me to be able to make more videos for you, which is my passion. I really love doing it, so thanks to all my existing patrons. Thanks to new patrons who joined last week: Pascal, James, Chakotay, Ariel, and Lee. Thanks as always to my boss tier patrons Shy Guy and Hollow. And with that, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you on the next one.